this life was all I ever wanted.
I'm not leaving. Not yet.
I was hoping you'd say that.
We gotta hit the streets, make some money.
People like us must destroy people like him. Buckle up.
Get Showtime free at Showtime.com.
Here's what we have for today. Reports suggest, I want to make sure I do my bit where I lean like a gangster. Reports suggest that the UFC is trying to host a show, Brian Campbell, on May 9th. And we don't know if it's exactly called 249 or 250. Let's start here if we can. Brian, I'll go to you first if I may. What is your level of confidence that the planned May 9 show takes place?
I'm going to go as high as 95%. I know that sounds absurd and ridiculous given the statutes and laws and regulations, as we all should be, by the way, sticking with the safeness and quarantine. And yes, I waited in line outside Home Depot yesterday with a face mask for 45 minutes. It's part of the drill right now. So please, people in Jacksonville, stop getting nude and running out on the beach and tipping each other. But to get serious here, Luke, the reason why I have this confidence is because somebody had to be first. So what does that mean? Dana White wanted to be first in the sports space. And mark my words, when UFC finally gets back on board, you'll see boxing, you'll see team sports come back. Well, who was first in this scenario was the state of Florida a little bit more than a week ago, extending that olive branch to all of sports by making pro sports gatherings essential for the economy, for entertainment, as long as they do it, of course, in front of, crowdless arenas. So the deal on this, Luke, is this. I don't necessarily believe that Dana will end up in Florida unless he has to, because the infrastructure for Fight Island is apparently still being built, whether you believe that's a thing or not. But Dana White is going to have a meeting with the Nevada governor coming up. He revealed that during that conference call that we'll get to in a second. And Luke, I don't think it's going to be a matter of time before all of these states slowly adjust, not coming back like nothing ever happened and we fill the arenas, but soft launching, meeting in the middle. And I think what we've been saying from the beginning is Fight Island or not, the real Fight Island for me is the UFC Apex Center. Same thing for Dana White. I believe he's going to get that open for May 9th. Right now, the Nevada statute extends until an April 30th timeline of when, business, non-essential business people can't congregate. It only makes sense because Florida was the first, and people in Florida are cray-cray. We know this. Shout out to all the Florida men out there. I believe Dana White's going to make this happen. Luke, I'm not here on Team Dana White for, yeah, man, F this. You've been reckless, and you're our Robin Hood, and you're our hero. But the guy's been consistent this whole time. If he can get state commissions working with him like I think he will, it seems inevitable for me.
See, that's exactly correct, Brian. I think that's the thing to focus in on. Like the UFC's troubles when Zuffa originally purchased it and then they ran towards regulation. Of course, that's a little bit of the Zuffa myth. They were running towards regulation a little bit before that, but let's just walk with it for a second as a metaphor and a learning tool. When you do that, doors open up. It takes a little bit longer up front, but once they open, they kind of stay open. Every time the UFC comes out with a subsequent statement, they get a little bit more reasonable each time. We'll talk about that call you had referenced in just a minute. But every time, if you read what was on that call and what Dana White is saying and what they're planning to do now, it's a rush back 3 weeks after April 18th. It doesn't necessarily give you all the confidence in the world that everything will be above board. But the point is this. The doors are now open in Florida. They might be able to take advantage of that. You indicated Dana White's going to have a meeting with the Democratic governor of Nevada, Steve Sisolak. He's been pretty hardcore about keeping things tamped down. But the reality is, like Carol Baskin in Tiger King, what was one thing that separated her from her foes? It was her ability to pull the levers of government behind the scenes to lobby effectively.
And her willingness to kill her spouse, Luke, notwithstanding, okay?
Right, fair enough. He was not there for the roll call. But the point being is, they're able to do that pretty effectively. Now, does that mean the May 9th show will go off without a hitch at the Apex facility? I'm a little more skeptical about that. But as the UFC takes its time, as it irons out its protocols, as it takes its protocols to these elected leaders, be they state senators, be they governors, whoever needs to hear it, they get a little bit more reasonable, they get a little bit more careful, and their message gets a little bit more honed. And that's exactly what needs to happen. Convince the people with the keys to the kingdom that you've got a great plan. Spread the risk, so to speak, between the UFC and the state. Have better protocol. And then and only then do things make a lot of sense. They're on that path. So I think you're right. May 9th, Florida's looking most likely, but UFC in May in Nevada, Brian, if they can really get their message down, improve what they've been trying to do, and convince Sisolak to potentially get some kind of an exemption, I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world.
No, call up, head down to the bar, get Mo Sisolak to sign that paper, Luke. Here's the deal on that. I've said it before. When is suddenly Las Vegas and Nevada the bastion of sanctity and hope in the combat sports space? They're not. If Florida makes it legal, the state of Nevada, despite Bob Bennett's comments last week where he sort of said, look, we have no decision yet. We're not going in any direction. They're not going to let Florida become savior is the wrong word here, but the sort of face of pro sports and combat sports. Vegas owns UFC. UFC owns Vegas. They go hand in hand. They boom that Nevada economy. The same reason, again, I always reference it, why Floyd Mayweather was allowed to delay his jail sentence in 2012. Why? So he can do the Miguel Cotto pay-per-view and infiltrate the economy. Now, in this situation with a potential soft launch, the hotel rooms are not going to be filled up. The restaurants aren't going to be rocked open. But still, I would think Nevada's going to go, Florida's going to do this if we don't. This ain't a Tai Chi Palace, Fight Island backdoor deal. This is for real. It's legal again. Let's get on board. Let's do it right. Let's help them provide the right safety protocols. Let's not take potential hospital beds from COVID patients that need it. Let's do it all as right as possible. And guess what? You're going to have Disney and ESPN right on board. And here's where I will tippeth the ball cap to, and that ball was a double entendre, the ball cap to Dana White on this. UFC 250, and I think that's what they're going to call it, Luke. 249 will live in infamy just like UFC 152 was it when Dan Hendo's knee and we blamed it on John Jones. This is a stacked-ass card. This is the equivalent of a first or second year in MSG, we want to make a bang, or UFC 200, we want to ridiculously load up the undercard. This is a strong move. I think it's going to make a large statement, and I do believe UFC will be back week after week from here. And it will be the beginning of launching back into the kind of normalcy, Luke, that I don't know about you and your precepts and your family, but this guy right here could use a little taste of that as long as we could do it safely. Practice safety quarantining, Luke, a little bit at a time. Just a tip. Just give me the tip. That's all I need.
You should. I've never heard of the Tai Chi Palace. It sounds like a place that owners of football teams go to get a little help. The Tachi Palace I've heard of. It's a little bit different. But to your point, there are still many other issues. Who's going to train the right way? How many people are going to be available? What about travel? It's not like getting the keys to the kingdom from Nevada, whether it be the governor or the commissioner or both, all of a sudden solves the problems. But as I mentioned, each incremental period where the UFC reformulates the plan, you can see that the plan slowly starts to get better and better. So let's keep going on that process. Let's keep trying to, yes, keep your eyes on the prize. But you're seeing now that a little bit of patience, I think, is paying off both in terms of how we assess and spread risk, as well as wait for this virus, in certain spots anyway, to die down to make fighting possible. Now, Brian, I'll go back to you one more time. There was this call that UFC President Dana White had with the roster of fighters. He said any number of things on it. Folks can see the details for themselves. What is Brian Campbell's biggest takeaway from that phone call?
Just this continuation of the foundational idea Dana has had throughout this, that the media is the enemy. There was specific language, and I believe it was MMA Junkie who acquired a lot of the details that we're all reciting, that Dana straight up told the fighters the media is not your enemy, it is not your friend, it's your enemy. And because of that, Dana not even telling the fighters where the potential location is until they need to know, until the last minute. And that's certainly problematic. Dana's beliefs that by revealing it, it would lead left-wing MMA journalists, which is kind of really what he's saying, to, submarine his potential ideas. No, we just nailed it for the last 10 minutes. You want to do it safe. You don't want to go to the Tai Chi Feng Shui Palace, Luke. Was that racist? I'll take that back. You don't want to go there and do it haphazardly. You want to do it the right way. If it can be done the right way, we'll all join and applaud you and be part of this, Dana. That's the deal. So the idea that we're still going to live in a cloud of secrecy and try to stiff-arm the media, when, look, the media is, like it or not, you've said this many times, the media is the UFC's promotional vehicle, right? That's how it works. We're not acting as promoters, but our coverage of their events serves as promotion at the end of the day. They need us, we need them, It just is what it is. Stop trying to act like, I'm Darth Maul over here in my weird orange t-shirt and black hat. I want to see fights. I want to report on them. I want to get excited about them. Yeah, sometimes we'll report on news that the UFC doesn't like and is unfavorable, but it's part of the deal. Stop acting like there's 25 Luke Thomases in an underground bunker being like, all right, what's Dana's next move? Let's put a halt to it. We kind of need fights to come back to be able to do our job. So let's cut this crap and all sort of team up and do it the right way.
I guess my biggest takeaway from the call was that it was promotion to fighters. I believe management of those fighters was explicitly excluded. And I don't know if behind the scenes that they complained, but in the front of the scenes, I didn't see any of them bat an eyelid. It is amazing to watch when you look at the numbers coming out from the court documents from the fighters' lawsuits from Kung Lee, John Fitch, Nate Quarry, and others, that we have a fixed position that we have figured out. The UFC spends about 15 to 18% every year on fighter compensation. We now know that matter of factly. And so, yes, as the UFC's revenues have gone up, 10% of $100 versus 10% of $1,000 means if you get that 10%, you get more money aggregately, but your share stays the same. All of that has stayed the same, which is to say if managers are getting their clients more money in unusual ways, there's really no evidence to show that in the record. Here we have a situation where the clients are being asked to go direct to the promotion with the management pushed out to the side. And sometimes when managers are upset with the UFC, they give the old media a ring. My phone didn't ring. Did yours ring, BC, with any manager calling you upset? I know a lot of media folks. I know a lot of folks in media who didn't get that call. So always kind of interesting to me to see. It's like, I'm not saying there's no value to managers or that there aren't managers doing great jobs. But what that value is versus the cost, I think there needs to be some re-exploration of that. It's not clear to me exactly how good that is.
Yeah,
all right.
It's not exactly a 90s reference, but shout out to you quoting Axl Rose. All we need is a little patience, Luke, right? I've been walking the street tonight, just trying to get it right. All right, we'll edit that out afterwards. Sorry, I was hooked on a feeling there. Sorry, Luke.
Yeah, you're making things weird. Don't make things weird, BC.
This life was all I ever wanted.
I'm not leaving. Not yet.
I was hoping you'd say that.
We gotta hit the streets, make some money.
People like us must destroy people like him. Buckle up.
Get Showtime free at Showtime.com.